Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 34. We've been reading how all the incarnations are all coming from Krishna. Ete chamsa kalab pumsa Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. That Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations are coming from him. Yadi esho parata devi maya vesharadi matihi
Maya Veshardi Mati
sampana eveti vidur
Samparna Evati Vidu
mahimni sve mahiyate.
Maherhe Mene Sabe Mahiyate.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Neetu, you want to read? I'm not sure if it's convenient. Anyway, so I'll read. If the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Because the Lord is the absolute transcendence, all of his forms, names, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. So God, he's on the absolute platform. And so there's no difference between himself, his name, his leelas, pastimes, his qualities, his paraphernalia, his energies. Everything is absolute. His transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies, and by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of the above energies. So God, we say, he is omnipotent. So with these potencies, he can do anything he likes. He can act in any way that he needs to or he wants to. He can perform anything. So we understand his energies as internal, external, and marginal. But it's his energy. Like for example, the powerhouse is giving us the electricity. Now we may use it to Prabhupada would say, we may use it to heat our homes, to use the heating system, or to use the air conditioner. It's the same energy which is coming. So God is omnipotent and he can perform anything by his energies. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy, which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it, subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. So because it's his energy, he can use it any way he wants. Now, we, the conditioned souls, we are in the material world because we have a desire to lord it over material nature. But if any living entity, he wants to take shelter of the Lord, he wants to take shelter of the internal energy. So the same energy will act as internal energy. The external energy will stop, the illusion will stop, and one will engage in service. And the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization. So for example, as we said, for the powerhouse, there's no difference. It's electricity. For Krishna, there's no difference. It's his energy. So his energy is being used to cover us if we want to, or to engage us in devotional service if we want to. The example of electrical energy is very appropriate in this connection. The expert electrician can utilize the electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Similarly, the external energy, which now bewilders the living being into continuation of birth and death, is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living being to eternal life. Krishna says no, in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, Devi hi esha gunamai mam maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. He says this energy of mine, consisting of three modes of nature, is divine. She is mine. So, and if we try to cross beyond it by ourselves, it's difficult. But if we take shelter of Krishna, because it's his energy, then the same energy, he uses it to stop our illusion and to give us transcendental knowledge. So from Krishna, he's omnipotent. He can use his energies as he wants. Depends on us which energy we want to take shelter of. We want to take shelter of his external energy or internal. In the sense we want to go away from him, then the external energy acts. We want to come towards him, the same energy helps us to come towards him. We want to forget him, his energy helps us forget him. We want to remember him, his energy helps us to remember him, serve him. So going on, evam janmani karmani.
Evam janmani mani karmani
Hi akartur ajanasya cha.
hi kartur ajanasya cha
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
varnayanti samakayo vayo
Veda goyani hritpatehe.
veda gohani hitapatehi.
Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. Both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. So, God, He's eternal, He's spiritual. We, individual living entities, because we are part and parcel of Him, we are also eternal, we are also spiritual. So the soul is never born or never dies. God also, He never born, never dies, exists eternally. The difference is that the so-called births and disappearance of the Lord are unlike those of the living beings. The living beings who take birth and then again accept death are bound by the laws of material nature. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of material nature, but are demonstrations of the internal potency of the Lord. So God is spiritual, we are spiritual. God is eternal, we are eternal. There's no birth and death for God, neither is there birth and death for the soul. So, but then now what's happening? What's the difference? When we are here in the material world, we are taking our birth and death in this material body. And we are bound by the laws of material nature, just like a prisoner. When he's in prison, he's bound by the laws of the prison. But the king may come and go as he likes in the prison. He's not bound by the laws. The king can come to the prison for however long he wants. He's just come to see if everything's okay. He's not wearing prisoner uniform. He can go out as he likes. He's not bound. So similarly, when God comes to this material world, he's not bound by the laws of material nature. He's coming by his own internal potency. They are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. By hearing about the activities of the Lord, by hearing about his appearance, we get purified and we can get self-realized. Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam. Evam yaveti tattvataha tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, Krishna is saying, try to understand the nature, transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. And by understanding this, you don't need to take birth again in the material world, but attain to the eternal abode. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord that his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are all transcendental. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bondage. So Krishna's activities, his birth, his leelas are not like of an ordinary person. We hear about some entertainer or a sports athlete or a politician. We hear about their birth and their activities. That's not going to give us liberation. That's not going to take us out of the material world. But just simply with submissiveness, we hear about Krishna's appearance, hear his activities, his pastimes, we hear about his qualities, and we can get liberation. We can get self-realized. We can come on the Brahman platform just by hearing about Krishna's activities, his appearance, because he's transcendental. So there's a difference. In the Shrutis, it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme has nothing to do, but because he's omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. So the Shrutis, the birthless appears to take birth. Yeah, God, he exists, he's eternal, right? He doesn't have birth and death. But we are celebrating Janmashtami every year. So he's appearing to take birth. It doesn't mean that that's the time he's born. No, he's eternal. He's eternal. He's omnipotent. So just like Prabhupada would explain that just as the sun rises, now the sun has risen in the morning. And another part of the world, it is dark. So where it is dark, one can't say, oh, the sun does not exist anymore. No, it's shining somewhere else. Yeah. So the Lord is eternal. And he does not have anything to do because everything is done automatically by his potencies. He's omnipotent. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different activities are all confidential, even to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls. So it is a subject matter not for everyone. It's confidential. This activities of the Lord, the appearance of the Lord, these are confidential. The Lord is performing them so that we can hear about them and we can go back home, back to Godhead. Because he's merciful, he's compassionate, he knows that we will get purified by hearing about them. We will get a desire, we will get knowledge that we can go to the spiritual world when he comes. Like before we watch a movie, we like to see the preview. So Krishna comes and shows his Vrindavan pastimes, his Dwarka pastimes, that all this is happening in the spiritual world. Come and enjoy with me eternal life full of happiness and bliss. We should always take advantage of the narrations of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. Yeah, Krishna is the source of Brahman. So when we are hearing about Krishna's appearance and Krishna's pastimes, then this is meditating on the Brahman, because the Brahman is coming from Krishna. It's the effulgence of Krishna. But if we are just going to think of the light, we cannot think of anything much. But when we are remembering Krishna's pastimes, it's a convenient way to remember the Brahman, to understand the Brahman. So, and Krishna, he says in Bhagavad Gita, engage your mind in always thinking of me. Krishna is our best well-wisher. He wants us to all get liberation, all go to the spiritual world. So by hearing Krishna's pastimes, by chanting Krishna's names, we get purified and we can go back home, back to God. And it's not like hearing and speaking about some material person, some famous material man. No, Krishna is transcendental. He's God. So there is a difference. Neetu, you're saying you can read, is it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'll start reading.
Yeah, I'll just read this. I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah.
Sava idam vishvamamogalila
Shava idam vishvam amogalila.
srajati avati atina sajatesmin
Shrajati avati atina sajatesmin.
bhuteshu chantar hitaatmatantra
Bhuteshu chantarhita atmatantra.
sadvargikam jigrati sadguneshaha
Satvargivam vargikam jikrati sadgunesha. Translation. The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, is the master of the six senses and is fully omnipotent and six opulences. He creates the manifested universes, maintains them, and annihilates them without being in the least affected. He is within every living being and is always independent. Purport. The prime difference between the Lord and the living entities is that Lord is the creator and the living entities are the created. Here, he is called the Amogalila, which indicates that there is nothing lamentable in his creation. Those who create disturbance in his creations are themselves disturbed. He is transcendental to all material afflictions because he is full with all six opulences, namely wealth, power, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. And thus he is the master of the senses. He creates this manifested universes in order to reclaim the living beings who are within them suffering threefold miseries, maintains them, and in due course annihilates them without being the least affected by such actions. He is connected with this material creation very superficially, as one smells odor without being connected with the odorous article. Non-godly elements, therefore, can never approach him despite all endeavors.
So the material energy, the material manifestation is created by Krishna's separated energy, his external energy. He does not personally associate with the material energy. The difference between God and the difference between the soul is that the God is the creator. And we, the living entities, we are the created, we are part and parcel of God. This entire material world, creation, God is creating it. He's creating. And why? So that we can get a chance to get out of this material world. We have a desire to enjoy the material world, but so that we can get an opportunity to rectify this wrongful desire, because we are not material. We are the spirit. We are spiritual. So to rectify this desire, God creates this material world, maintains and highlights, so that we can go back to the spiritual world, where we can live happily, blissfully, and full knowledge. Here in the material world, we are affected by the miseries at every time. The three miseries caused from own body and mind, caused from other living entities, caused from natural occurrences. So Krishna, he does not want us to suffer. He wants us to come out. The creation is perfect. The Creator is perfect. We just simply have to rectify our desire, wrongful desire. This is what we are trying to understand. This is why Krishna has created this material world. His activities are spotless. He is omnipotent, as we are saying. We say God is omnipotent. So he has all the potencies in full. He has all the opulences, name, fame, knowledge, beauty, renunciation. He has all these unlimitedly. We may have them to a certain degree, but God has them unlimitedly. So that's why he's the master of the senses. So he's completely pure. He's never affected by the material world, never comes under the modes of nature. He's always on the transcendental platform. So his creation, Prabhupada explains, it's like, when one is near some thing which is smelling bad, so the nose will smell it, but you don't get dirty by it, because you're not touching it, you're just near it. So Krishna does not get affected by the modes of nature. Someone may think that when Krishna comes to the world, he is also under the modes of nature, maybe mode of goodness. No, he is always transcendental, never comes under the modes. Na chasya kaschan nipunena dhatu.
न चास्य कश्चन निरूपेण धातुः
Avaititi jantu kumanisha uttihi.
अव एतज्जनतु कुमनीष उत्ति
Namani rupani mano vachubihi.
नामानि रूपाणि मनोवचुभिः
Santanvato nata charayam ivagyaha.
सनतन्वतो न तच्चर्याम् इवाज्ञा.
The foolish with a poor fund of knowledge cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama. Nor can they express such things, neither in their speculations nor in their words. No one can properly describe the transcendental nature of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, it is said that he is beyond the expression of mind and speech. And yet, there are some men with a poor fund of knowledge who desire to understand the Absolute Truth by imperfect mental speculation and faulty description of his activities. So God, he's absolute, he's transcendental, he's spiritual. Our senses are material. Our mind is material. So if we try to understand God with our material senses, with our material mind, we are going to make mistake because they are imperfect. So our knowledge will become imperfect if we try to understand God with mental speculation. That's when we need to hear from the revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures are full of descriptions of the absolute truth. And this is how God gets revealed to us. To the layman, his activities, appearance and disappearance, his names, his forms, his paraphernalia, his personalities, and all things in relation with him are mysterious. There are two classes of materialists, namely the fruitive workers. Oh, I'm sorry, you are reading, right? So sorry.
Yeah, no,
Please
no,
read.
it's absolutely fine.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't stop
Yes,
you. I
please.
said you were reading it. It's okay.
Yeah, please read. You can read
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. No one can properly describe the transcendental nature of the absolute truth. Therefore, it is said that he is beyond the expression of mind and speech. And yet, there are some men with a poor fund of knowledge who desire to understand the absolute truth by imperfect mental speculation and faulty description of his activities. To the layman, his activities, appearance and disappearance, his names, his forms, his paraphernalia, his personalities, and all things in relation with him are mysterious. There are two classes of materialists, namely the fruitative workers and the empiric philosophers. The fruitative workers have practically no information of the absolute truth, and the mental speculators, after being frustrated in fruitive activities, turn their faces toward the absolute truth and try to know him by mental speculation. And for all these men, the absolute truth is a mystery, as the jugglery of the magician is a mystery to children. Being deceived by the jugglery of the Supreme Being, the non devotees, who may be very dexterous in fruitive work and mental speculation, are always in ignorance. With such limited knowledge, they are unable to penetrate into the mysterious region of transcendence. The mental speculators are a little more progressive than the gross materialists or the fruitative workers. But because they are also within the grip of illusion, they take it for granted that anything which has form, a name, and activities is but a product of material energy. For them, the Supreme Spirit is formless, nameless, and inactive. And because such mental speculators equalize the transcendental name and form of the Lord with mundane names and form, they are, in fact, in ignorance. With such a poor fund of knowledge, there is no access to the real nature of the Supreme Being. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is always in a transcendental position, even when he is within the material world. But ignorant men consider the Lord one of the great personalities of the world, and thus they are misled by the illusory energy. Illusory energy.
So here, Sutta Goswami is saying that to understand the absolute truth, we cannot understand him by just working hard in our material, whatever we need to do, or we cannot understand him by the strength of our own mind, trying to speculate, oh, maybe God is like that, maybe God is like that. No, we need to hear about him to get the perfect knowledge about the absolute truth. And that's the reason we need to go to one who has the knowledge of the absolute truth. So he can give us the knowledge of the absolute truth. If we try to go to someone who is just also using their mind and mind to understand the absolute truth, then because the mind is material, such knowledge will be imperfect. And fruitive work means, just want to work hard day and night, enjoy the results. So not interested at all to understand the absolute truth. The mental speculation, someone may be interested to understand spirit and matter, but because they're not getting the knowledge from the person who has the knowledge of the absolute truth, their knowledge becomes speculative, based on the mind, on imagination. So it is still ignorance, because God is transcendental, always transcendental. The form of the Lord is transcendental. The pastimes of the Lord are transcendental. His names are transcendental. If we think that the form of God or his name or his pastimes are material, that is ignorance. That is ignorance, because all the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vedas are declaring it, that the form of the Lord is transcendental. His form is not material. His names are transcendental, not material. If we think they are material, then that is ignorance. So Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna is saying that understand janma karma cha me divya. That understand that my form is transcendental, my appearance is transcendental, my leelas, pastimes are transcendental. Just by understanding this, you can get liberation. So if we think that God is just some great personality of the material world, that is ignorance. Or if we think that anyone can get God, become God, or, no, because only God is God. No one is equal to or greater than God, asamardha. His position is unchallengeable. No one can become equal to him or greater than him. He's always transcendental. So going on, text 38. Save dadhatu padavim parasya
Save dadhatu padavim parasya
duranta viryasya rathangapane.
duranta
Durantaviryasya rathangapane
rathangapane
Yomaya santatayanu
Yomaya
satatayanu
yasantatayanu
vritya
Bhaje tatatpada sarojagantam.
Bhajet
Tatpada saroja kandam. Translation. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the Creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence. Purport. Only the pure devotees can know the transcendental name, form, and activities of Lord Krishna due to their being completely freed from the reactions of fruitive work and mental speculation. The pure devotees have nothing to derive as personal profit from their unalloyed service to the Lord. They render incessant service to the Lord spontaneously without any reservation. Everyone within the creation of the Lord is rendering service to the Lord, indirectly or directly. No one is an exception to this law of the Lord. Those who are rendering service indirectly, being forced by the illusory agent of the Lord, are rendering service unto him unfavorably. But those who are rendering service unto him directly under the direction of his beloved agent are rendering service unto him favorably. Such favorable servitors are devotees of the Lord, and by the grace of the Lord, they can enter into the mysterious region of transcendence by the mercy of the Lord. But the mental speculators remain in the darkness all the time. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Himself guides the pure devotees toward the path of realization due to their constant engagement in the loving service of the Lord in spontaneous affection. That is the secret of entering into the kingdom of God. Fruitive activities and speculation are no qualification for entering.
So the pure devotees, they understand. They understand the absolute truth. By they've gotten the mercy of the Lord. They are serving the Lord favorably. They have no material desire. They have no desire for mental speculation. The only desire is, how can I please Krishna? They are only serving spontaneously, just as a mother is serving the child spontaneously. So it's based on love. Each and every individual, each of us have love for God in our heart. We've simply forgotten it. And we need to revive this. Prabhupada here is mentioning everyone within the creation of Lord is rendering service to the Lord, directly or indirectly. So the devotees, they are directly serving the Lord favorably. So they are under the shelter of the internal energy. They're directly serving. Now, one may say, I don't want to serve God. So what one does is serving God indirectly. How? By serving Maya. Because Maya also belongs to God. So that becomes indirect service, unfavorable service. Because the position of the soul is always to serve. Sanatan Dharma. We cannot take away service from the soul. Always serving. We may say, no, I'm not serving, I'm the boss. But then the boss is serving the employees or serving the customers or, different things. The mother is serving the child, the husband is serving the family, the siblings are serving each other or serving the country, the community, serving another person, serving the pets, serving humanity. But service is there in each and every one of us. We cannot deny that. Just it's our choice. We want to serve God favorably or unfavorably. We want to serve God directly or indirectly. That is our choice. That Krishna does not interfere with that. When we say we are going to indirectly serve, then we are here in the material world. When we want to directly serve, we are under the shelter of the internal energy. So the pure devotees, they are favorably serving the Lord. So they are under the shelter of the internal energy. And by the mercy of God, they get the intelligence. Krishna says that those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the knowledge by which they can come to me. So knowledge is revealed in the heart of the pure devotee by Krishna. And by this knowledge, by this intelligence, one goes, by this mercy of Krishna, one goes to the spiritual world. They attract the grace of Krishna because they are devoted to serving him with love. When we serve someone, we attract them. We melt their hearts. We become dear to them when we serve someone. So the pure devotee, he becomes dear to the Lord because he's serving the Lord all the time. So the Lord bestows his mercy on the devotee. And he says, so those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the intelligence by which they come to me. So the mercy of the Lord. He also says, Devi Esha Gunamai. That this material world is difficult to overcome, but those who surrender to me can very easily cross beyond it. So our choice, we want to surrender to Krishna or we want to surrender to Maya. Surrender to Maya means we continue living in the material world. Surrender to Krishna, we go to the spiritual world, associate with Krishna. So the mental speculation, that is also in ignorance, that is also Maya, because not understood the absolute truth. To get the knowledge of the absolute truth, we need to hear from the devotees who have knowledge of the absolute truth, who are in the disciplic succession, who have understood this knowledge, who are speaking from the scriptures, from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So reading on. Ate hadanya bhagavanta itham
Ate
Ate
hadanya
Bhagavatam
bhagavanta itham
yadva sudeve khilalokanaathe
yadva
Yat
sudeve
Vasudeve
kilalo
Kilalo
kanathe
kurvanti sarvatmakam atmabhavam
kurvanti
Kurvanti
sarvatma
Sarvatmakam Atmabhavam
na yatra bhuya parivarta ugraha.
na yatra ya
Puja Parivarta Ugra. Translation. Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant, for such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes, and guarantee 10% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death. Purport. The inquiries of the sages, headed by Shaunaka, are herewith praised by Sutta Goswami on the merit of their transcendental nature. As already concluded, only the devotees of the Lord can know him to a considerable extent, and no one else can show him at all.
Know him
So the
at all.
devotee
No
no
one
one
else
else
can
can
know him.
know him at all. Yeah, sorry. Know him at all. So the devotees are perfectly cognizant of all spiritual knowledge. The personality of Godhead is the last word in absolute truth. Impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, Super Soul, are included in the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So one knows the personality of Godhead can automatically know all about him, his multipotencies, and his expansions. So the devotees are congratulated as being all successful. A 10% devotee of the Lord is immune to the dreadful material miseries of repeated birth and death.
So Sutta Goswami is praising the inquiries of the sages of Naimisharanya. He's saying that your questions are very worthy because it leads one to liberation, to get out of the material world, because they're regarding topics of the Supreme Lord. By hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, one purifies the heart and one can go to the spiritual world. So only the devotees can understand the Lord because they have the knowledge of the Lord. They are hearing in the disciplic succession, which is coming from the Lord himself. The disciplic succession is begun by Krishna himself. God is the only one who can give us perfect knowledge. So because the devotees are hearing the knowledge in disciplic succession, their knowledge is perfect. So personality of Godhead is the last word in absolute truth. To understand that the Supreme Lord, he is a person, and the Brahman is the effulgence which is coming from his form, and Paramatma is his expansion, which is there in the heart of every living entity and in the atom of and every atom of the universe. So by trying to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will also get knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. We don't need to separately endeavor to get that knowledge. Just as in a 1000 NT note, already 100 is already there, 500 is already there. So understanding the absolute personality of Godhead, by understanding him, we will also get understanding of Brahman and also understanding of Paramatma. So here, that's the reason Prabhupada is saying, so the devotees are congratulated as being all successful, because then one can understand. One says God is omnipotent, but how, what do you mean by saying omnipotent? We say God is great, but how great he is? When we can understand all this, then can go back home, back to Godhead. We say God is great, but how great? We say God is omnipotent. What are the potencies? When we understand these things, we are understanding the absolute truth. Prabhupada is saying a 10% devotee of the Lord is immune to the dreadful material miseries of repeated birth and death. So the pure devotee is liberated. It's a Jivan Mukta. So he's liberated even while being in the material world. See now. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam
Bhagavatam Nama
Nama
Puranam Brahma Sammitam.
Puranam Brahma Samhita
Uttama Shloka Charitam.
Uttama
Uttama Shloka
Charitam
Charitam
Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi.
Chakara
Chakara
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Rishi
Rishi
Nihishreya Lokasya.
Nishreyas
Nishreya
Lokasya
Saya Lokasya
Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam Mahat.
Dhanyam Swasti
Dhanyam
Ayanam
Swasti
Mahat.
Ayanam Mahat. Translation. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for all the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless, sound representation of all Vedic knowledge and history. There are selected histories of great devotees who are in direct contact with the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna and is therefore non-different from him. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as respectfully as we worship the Lord. Thereby, we can derive the ultimate blessings of the Lord through its careful and patient study. As God is all light, all bliss, and all perfection, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. We can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, from the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, provided it is received through the medium of the transparent spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya's private secretary, Srila Swarupa Damodara Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri to make a study of the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is a self-realized bona fide spiritual master, and through him only can one understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. One can derive from the study of the Bhagavatam all benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from his personal contact.
Sutta Goswami is saying this Bhagavatam is a literary incarnation of God. Literary incarnation. This is Krishna himself. It's meant for ultimate good of people. It is all successful, all blissful, all perfect. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying this is Amala Puran. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Puran, is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, is a sound representation of all Vedic knowledge. So by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and here Prabhupada is saying we should worship Bhagavatam as we should worship Lord Krishna because he's non-different. Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. It's his incarnation in this form of this literature. So by carefully studying the Bhagavatam, we can get the mercy of the Lord, the blessings of the Lord. Prabhupada is saying by studying Bhagavatam, we can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, by recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. But we need to hear it in the disciplic succession. Hear it from the authorized representative of Krishna. Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was the secretary of Lord Chaitanya. He told everyone, you study Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavat. The person Bhagavata is the representative of Krishna, the bona fide spiritual master. He's self-realized. And that's how he can teach, because he's living by the principles of Bhagavatam, he can teach us the Bhagavatam. He can show us the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is saying one can derive all benefits as one would derive by the personal presence of the Lord by studying Bhagavatam. It has all the blessings of Lord Sri Krishna. Prabhupada would say we carefully study, systematically study Bhagavatam, we will find Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam. So it's a great fortune to be able to read Bhagavatam. It's the Supreme Lord himself, his glories, his devotees, his names, his forms, glorification of the Supreme Lord. So it's non-different than the Lord. It's his literally incarnation. So we'll stop here. Were there any questions? Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.